We will now continue with the next presentation by Dr. Walther Maradiegue from the Free University of Berlin. He has completed his PhD at the Northwestern University, and he's presently working as a postdoc at the Latin America Institute in Berlin, and his present research project is entitled Shared Soundscapes, Music Revival and Identity Politics in Peru, a research project funded by the DFG. Welcome, Dr. Maradiegue. So to continue with the slides, you just press.
Okay, cool. Okay, hello everyone. I forgot to print my presentation, so open this. Okay, I'll go straight to the point. In this presentation, I argue that following an instrument as a methodology of ethnographic fieldwork and collaborative relationship reveals the ways in which music is articulated into modes of indigenous territorialities and communal life. I give particular emphasis to discussing the role of joy as a shared experience of care and experience life, and as a social practice that reproduces a community. Such an effect is particularly important during the recent years as indigenous peoples in South America are under siege by the politics of national governments and by extractivist projects seeking to occupy and displace these communities from their native lands. My presentation focuses on my work with Quechua-Kañaris communities, an indigenous group that lives in the northern Peruvian Andes and that speaks one of the least known variants of the Quechua language. I mainly focus on the chirimía, an instrument that I see as central for the political and affective reproduction of Kañaris communality and territoriality. The chirimía, or shom, could be called also in English, arrived in the Andes around the 16th century, a few decades after Spanish colonization, and found its way to stay in the region and to merge with indigenous musical ways. The instrument consists of a main body, usually made from a single piece of wood, and a double reed made from cane. This double reed is inserted directly into a socket at the top of the main body, or in some cases, at the end of an additional small metal tube, not present in this photo. Since the 16th century, indigenous musicians in the Andes customized the chirimía, and now the instrument can be found in diverse forms along the region. A customization that includes the production of the main body with local woods and the double reed with local canes, as well as the use of this instrument to play genres of indigenous and peasant music. The first attempt to inventory traditional musical instruments in Peru, published in 1978, mentions the presence of chirimías, also with the alternative names of chirisuya and dulzaina, in the central and southern Andean region, which suggests that the presence of this instrument in the northern Andes has been a relatively recent finding by anthropologists and ethnomusicologists. My approach to following the chirimía as methodology and relationship building began with a work of archival restitution, just like the two presentations before. The binational project Shared Soundscapes, where I'm currently a postdoctoral researcher, aims to return the audiovisual materials that a group of Peruvian anthropologists produced in 1990 and that are currently conserved at the Institute of Ethnomusicology at the Pontifical Catholic University of Peru in Lima. Since 2021, the project has been reconnecting these materials to their communities, focusing on two instruments, the chirimía on your left and the northern harp, or arpa norteña, which I won't have the time to unpack in this presentation. Instruments that were falling into disuse during the last 2 decades but are now being recuperated, initiatives with which we seek to collaborate. This work of archival restitution connected us first with the descendants and disciples of the late chirimía musician Victorino Acosta, who lived in the coastal district of Ferreñafe and was central to the local Diablicos dance, or Danza de los Diablicos. Watching the videos where Acosta tunes, cleans, and plays his instrument with elder dancers and musicians was an opportunity to understand that he and his music were very demanded not only in his hometown, but also in nearby towns, a circulation that draws an ecological and cultural region with a shared history. Acosta made his chirimía with guayacán, a local wood that is now endemic in the region, and made the double reeds with local canes that he collected on the shores of arroyos, or the rivers that stay dry during the whole year except during the 2 months of summer. This implies that for making, conserving, and playing a chirimía, one not only needs to be an expert musician or an expert in local music genres and traditions, but that it is necessary that the musician is deeply familiar with the ecologies and temporality of local environments. The region where Acosta produced the chirimía and its canes, and where he played the instrument in religious and agricultural rituals, included the Pomac Forest, the La Leche River, extensive deserts and valleys, as well as the pyramids of Tucumán, which you can see here. It's like an aerial view, so you can see how massive and big they are. Pre-Columbian monumental constructions from the 12th century that still dominate the landscape. However, after Victorino Acosta passed away in the late 1990s, the dance was at risk of losing the instrument due to the absence of younger players, the difficulty of finding another chirimía, and of making new double reeds. During recent years, younger cultural activists have found a way to order chirimías from Spain, a move that helps the recuperation of chirimía playing in the region, but not fully recuperates traditional knowledge related to the production of chirimías and double reeds with local techniques and materials. Interestingly, when interviewing representatives of the Diablicos dance, they ignore that in the adjacent highland regions of Incahuasi and Cañaris, chirimías are still produced and played, and their role for ritual and agricultural life is very much alive. Our work continues in this highland region. So this is a map of Peru, if you can locate it in South America. That's the Lambayeque region, and those are the districts of Incahuasi, Cañaris, and Salas, where Cañaris peoples live. And we focus on a special event that convocated most of the Cañaris communities. The festival of the Taqui, of the dance, or Fiesta del Taqui, is a traditional event in the region and congregates dancers, musicians, and bands from the Cañaris districts of Incahuasi, Salas, and Cañaris. The festival lasts 4 days and is followed by the 3 days of the Festival of the Virgin of Mercy, or Virgen de las Mercedes. During all these days, the chirimía takes a central role during the main religious rituals and for the contest of traditional indigenous dance. In other words, the chirimía is at the center of both rituality and joy, a connection that is not casual but explains that this instrument, fabricated with local woods and that is at the center of indigenous music, is part of the reproduction of community life, its rituality and affects. My approach to following the chirimía and its production, playing, genres and repertoires and the territories in which the instrument circulates follows 2 theoretical models. The first incorporates debates from ethnomusicology and anthropology about the social life of musical instruments. Such a perspective understands that musical instruments are entangled in webs of complex relationships between humans, objects, animals, and the environment. These relationships carry the instrument as objects that circulate as commodities in social life, but also explain that an instrument can mediate or facilitate social interactions and can create affects and joy through sounding. While this perspective relates to the new materialism scholarship that during the last 3 decades has reshaped the ways in which social sciences approach the relationships between human objects and environment, it is also worth remembering that since at least the 16th century, indigenous intellectuals have emphasized the ways in which some materialities, substances, and objects are animated and have an agential role in political and ritual life. Consequently, an indigenous view of the social life of musical instruments is founded on the relations of ancestrality and care that precede Western science. A second theoretical model is based on the concept of cuerpo territorio, or body territory, shaped in academic, activist, and feminist circles in Latin America. Such concepts sees the territory as connected to individual and social bodies, and the body as a territory itself, an idea that comes from the centuries-old struggles against colonialisms of indigenous and black peoples in this hemisphere. In this order of ideas, looking at a musical instrument as coming from local ecologies and circulating around indigenous territories suggests that an instrument can also be a territory in constant interaction with bodily and ecological territories through sounding, knowledges, and joy. One cannot find many chirimías in the Cañaris area. In fact, people say that each town has only one or no more than 2 chirimía players. Also, this is not an instrument that is easy to produce, as the bromeliads from which it is produced grow in very high regions. The canes that are the base for the double reed only grow in high altitude areas, and musicians say that it is best to grab the ones that grow below big boulders located in steep cliffs. A chirimía player normally makes 5 to 8 reeds for the days of the Taqui festival, a preparation that takes up to 3 months. The preparation of a musician that involves anticipation and knowledge of local ecologies and the temporalities of certain plants, bromeliads, and canes. On top of that, they must prepare the instrument for the changing weather that can take place during the trip to Incahuasi and during the days of the festival, a work of care that in many ways echoes the care with which the community takes care of their musicians. The days of the Taqui festival are full of music, genres of mestizo music such as huayno, marinera, and cumbias, and repertoires of Quechua music such as cachuas, lanchipincuyos, and the dance of the bells. Among such dense soundscapes of musicians, instruments, and musical genres, the chirimía takes a prominent role. Last year, only one chirimillero was able to attend the Taqui festival because of the pandemic years. This situation created a high demand for the services of Santos Reyes, a chirimía player from the nearby town of Totoras. The musician, his instrument, and the music they both create are especially expected in 3 settings during the Taqui festival and the celebration of the Virgin of Mercy. The first one consists of a breakfast with the members of the comunidad. I don't know if I can... Just a tiny bit. So this is the breakfast, and then wait, what? How did I start here? Okay. The second is the Mass, where everyone gathers at the town century's old church, a moment that begins when the Virgin is picked up from the community house, dressed up, and her platform is assembled and decorated with flowers, and then the Virgin is taken to the church, a moment that is periodically animated with chirimía songs that share the soundscape with the jokes, laughter, and singing of the people there reunited. This is the frame already decorated, and here you see the player like animating the thing, and this is a very happy moment. Like, there are many jokes, and that's what I want to highlight, like the happiness of the moment. Finally, after the central Mass, everyone goes to the town esplanade for the exhibition of traditional Cañaris dances, where the chirimía dance is particularly expected, as it is considered the most important Cañaris dance. Here, Santos Reyes plays the instrument for more than 2 hours. And this is another. So here's he playing in the procession of the Virgin. Okay. Sorry, I can show you later if you want. Yeah. My work following the chirimía started when I first met Santos Reyes days before the Taqui festival, continued during the days of the festival, and the next weeks when I joined him to his hometown, and he taught me the work to get the materials for producing a chirimía in a double reed. He also told me about the towns where he is invited to perform and what are the specific genres and songs he is supposed to play at this event. I could even witness 2 visits, and I'm planning to continue this work during my upcoming fieldwork this coming October. So just to sum up, Following an indigenous musical instrument was then a form to establish relationships both with reyes, the musician, and with the communities of listening and joy around the instrument's soundings. At the same time, following the chirimía was an opportunity for me to learn about the instrument's ecologies, materialities, temporalities, and how these aspects contribute to the reproduction of a community, its knowledges and its joy. As I announced at the beginning of my presentation, it's a very loud instrument now, you can tell. At the beginning of my presentation, I am currently interested in highlighting the role of joy as a form to contest the stereotypes applied to indigenous Andean music and dance, as they are usually seen either as sad and apathetic or as a commodity that has to be marketed and offered to the tourists. Indigenous joy, then, is connected to sound territorialities, which is why a defense of indigenous lands is an act of resistance and a defense to the right to be joyful. Thank you.